Yeah, I know. A part of me also feels weird whenever we talk about this guy because his first and last name paired together creates a very different link in most of our brains. Today we're talking about somebody whose middle name, I'm sure, is not Luke. We're talking about Buffalo Sabres forward Jack Quinn. Ha ha ha, get your Quinn Jack Hughes jokes out of here. We've been making those jokes since 2019-20. But Jack Quinn is a young Sabres forward, 24 years old, and a guy who was drafted in the 8th overall spot back in 2020's NHL Entry Draft. He was a player that kind of came out of nowhere, from his draft -1 with the Ottawa 67s to his draft-eligible campaign where he had 52 goals and 89 points in 62 games. Jack Quinn, throughout the course of that draft-eligible season, bolted up the draft rankings and quickly established himself in the minds of many draft analysts as the top goal scorer in this draft. Now, if you watch the videos that we made here on this YouTube channel, you would have seen that I personally was more privy to Alexander Holtz being the top 2020 goal-scoring prospect versus Jack Quinn, but that's neither here nor there. Alexander Holtz isn't really that great, but Jack Quinn is pretty fine. This previous season for the Buffalo Sabres, after getting taken 8th overall, Quinn scored 51 points and 20 goals in 82 games played. He has finally started to round out his game and add more of a playmaking element to it, rather than just gripping it and ripping it Ovi style like he was in the OHL. Jack Quinn has a contract that takes him until 2027, making $3.375 million a year. It is just a 2-year contract, and it goes on till the end of this upcoming season. With that said, we have ourselves some reports from the fourth period and David Pagnotta that indicate the Buffalo Sabres are dangling Jack Quinn as trade bait, and they have been doing this since prior to the NHL Draft. If Buffalo can package him in a deal for a roster upgrade, that seems like the goal. Now, Jack Quinn is a young player that happens to have been a pretty reasonably good middle six scoring option and a player who was half a point a game in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. He also had that crazy 3-point game with 2 goals and 1 assist in game number 6 versus Montreal. It's funny because he only had 4 points in 7 games against the Habs, which is over half a point a game, but in 5 of those games he went pointless. So I think this game is doing a lot of heavy lifting for Jack Quinn's point production. However, he was a little bit more consistent with scoring assists in the Boston Bruins series over there. Anyways, with this update in place, we now have an opportunity to talk about potential destinations. Where can Jack Quinn get traded to? We've got replies talking about Calgary for Farabee, Adam Klapka, and a second. We've got Detroit, Krebs, Quinn, and McLeod for Dylan Larkin. Get the Red Wings a number 1 center and alleviate this is a Sabres fan going out there and talking about it. Let's trade all these dudes for Larkin. That's what they're going out there and saying. JCap says, I felt like Quinn was the weak link most of last year, but he more than held his own down the stretch, and in the playoffs, his game rose another level. Unless it's a legit borderline all-star level / really good player coming back in the package, I don't think moving Quinn is worth it. So, various ideas being tossed out there by Buffalo Sabres fans and Calgary Flames fans. There have been conversations on whether or not he's actually going to be included in the inevitable Connor Hellebuyck trade with Winnipeg. And I would say, when thinking about big Buffalo Sabres trades, that's probably the most reasonable direction to look at. Any of these talented, young-ish pieces getting sent over to somewhere, if it's a Connor Hellebuyck trade, it probably makes sense. But then you had this article posted by Gabriel Sammy on HabsFanatics.com yesterday that talks about how Jack Quinn could potentially be an option for Kent Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens. I'll leave a link in the description of this article. Let's go out there and read. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet reports that Buffalo has placed the young forward on the trade market and they're actively trying to find him a new home. David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period reported the same. According to him, the Sabres have been using Quinn as trade bait since before the draft. He has delivered in the playoffs, posting 7 points in 13 games, including a game-winning goal against the Canadiens. He also reportedly was a part of that Sabres offer to Winnipeg in an attempt to acquire Connor Hellebuyck. Quinn's affordable contract makes him a compelling target for the Canadiens. His contract carries a $3.375 million cap hit per season and runs through the end of 26-27. At that point, he will be an RFA. Trading Jack Quinn would fit with the major roster overhaul launched by GM Jarmo Kekalainen since taking over in December. The situation involving Bowen Byram, whom Kekalainen publicly said he was dissatisfied with, has already ended with a trade. With trades and offer sheets becoming increasingly common, an affordable scorer never stays available for long, so we're eager to see what happens with Quinn. Do you think he could be an interesting target for Kent Hughes? Now, I will say this. There was a time where a lot of us thought Jack Quinn had maybe 30 to 40 goal NHL potential, and I'm not going to say that that's gone. He just had a 20-goal season after all, in 82 games played. But I would probably say Jack Quinn, if everything fits perfectly, we're probably looking at a guy who consistently gets 55 to 60 points a year if everything works perfectly. I'm not saying that he's incapable of getting more than that, it's just that seems to be the type of career that Quinn will carve out for himself if he is given a top six role. If he's given a top line role, he is consistently first line, he's getting 19 minutes a night, and he's getting all the power play time, then hey, maybe there is a chance Quinn actually overcomes that. Maybe he gets a 70-point year, maybe he's a 75-point scorer with 35 or 40 goals in a year. It's not impossible, but for the Montreal Canadiens, I want to say that maybe it's not too necessary for a guy who is a second-line, 70-point caliber guy. Obviously, you'd like to have that, but not everybody is going to be able to score as much if they're on the second line or so. Jack Quinn would add a pretty reasonable level of depth to this Canadiens team, and if you were to think about comparables, guys in the lineup that he could replace, Quinn would essentially be a better and more consistent version of Zachary Bolduc, if you wanted to say that. Or maybe he takes on Oliver Kapanen's spot, and you move Kirby Dach back into the middle, and Kapanen is replaced by a guy who is already proven to have scored 20 goals in an NHL season. There are a lot of options for the Montreal Canadiens with all the forwards that they have, especially when you think about the age range here. Oliver Kapanen is younger than Jack Quinn. He also was drafted a little bit later. Look at that. He also had 22 goals this previous campaign. Maybe that was a dumb thing for me to go out there and say that, Jack Quinn had 20 goals and 51 total points. Oliver Kapanen, way fewer assists there. So we'll see whether or not that's actually capable of continuing. But then again, maybe it's Zach Bolduc that you take out. Maybe it's Alexandre Texier. Maybe at some point you realize that Josh Anderson is not going to stick around forever. Or maybe Alex Newhook gets hurt again. There are possibilities when you think about it, but Jack Quinn is an interesting enough talent in my mind to reasonably think that it's worth the shot. Meanwhile, when you think about some of these other teams, Buffalo being a destination for Dylan Larkin, I'm not too sure if Larkin would be okay to go there. It seems like he's being very picky about where it is that he'd want to go. I personally would love to see Jack Quinn in Detroit. You're not sure if DeBrincat is going to be sticking around for the long haul. Patrick Kane's probably already gone, so why not have Quinn and DeBrincat on the same line? Or you can think about the long-term implications of whether or not Quinn could be a top-line player. Maybe you throw DeBrincat down the middle, which he has had experience playing center before, and then you have Raymond and Quinn as the other guys instead. Does that make sense? I'm not too sure, but if Detroit were to find a way to get their hands on Quinn, I actually would like that a lot. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether it's the Connor Hellebuyck trade talks, whether it's the Detroit Red Wings, whether it's Montreal. Do you think Jack Quinn is an appropriate trade target? Why or why not? Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.